There he is, Matt Painter, co-coach of the year in the Big Ten last year, and reading Kerry Kenny from the conference office there, man, who took Purdue to the national championship game, first time since 1969, won their second straight outright Big Ten title. They will look for 3 in a row, but they will have to do it without the big fella, Zach Edey. The 2-time National Player of the Year has moved on to the NBA, but again, into the Final Four last year. And Fletcher Loyer, Braden Smith, and Coach Painter with me. Braden, the preseason conference player of the year, so picking up that mantle from Zach Edey this year as the Boilermakers try to make it 3 in a row. Braden, Fletcher, Coach, welcome. But before we get into this year, let's talk a little bit about last year. What an amazing journey. It was such an honor to be able to follow you guys all the way to the Final Four, and just incredible performances throughout the year. As you process it, as you think about it, what are the memories that pop into your head? And Braden, I can start with you.
Yeah, no, I think me and Fletch just talked about it. I think we're still trying to process it. I think just being able to experience something like that and what it meant for our fan bases and our families, I think it's still just a lot to, just think about. And just going back, watching games and rewatching old stuff, videos, whatever it is, I think just going back and seeing those things, it just brings back a lot of memories. I think it's still just kind of clicking.
How about for you, Fletch?
Yeah, obviously it was something we worked really hard for, something that hadn't been done in a long time, and something we get to celebrate with our teammates, coaches, and fans. It was a huge thing for our community, and I think it still hasn't set in, just what we accomplished and how great it was, but ultimately you got to move forward and get better.
I'll tell you, one of the things that really stood out to me, and I'll let you answer this, but maybe this is part of the answer, one of the people who had impacted being with Coach Katie at that national championship game, and he's got the Purdue P shaved into the back of his head, right? I mean, like,
too much free time.
he does, and we're happy to hear that he's doing okay after a health scare. But it had to be so meaningful to you, not just for you personally, and I know that, hey, you kind of have this mantle of best coach who hasn't been to a Final Four and all that kind of stuff. You get to shed that. But all the people that it impacted.
Yeah, first of all, you're just happy for your players. Like, you have to be able to have the guys to be able to do it. So, like, we had a great bunch of guys, but also the adversity that we had to handle from the previous year. Like, we did some really good things. We won the league by 3 games. We won a Big Ten tournament title. Then to get beat in that first game, that was devastating for us. And those guys wanted to go right to the NCAA tournament. That's not the way it works. You got 12 months that you got to sit in it. So to have to go through non-conference and to be undefeated in non-conference again and then win our league by 3 games again, and then these guys weren't too excited about playing in the Big Ten tournament, and they just wanted to get to the NCAA tournament. So just what that meant for those guys and our former players. We had a lot of guys that were really close. You don't always have a team that can get to a Final Four, but we've had 3 or 4 where we were pretty close, and we just didn't get there. So just happy for those guys. Obviously, Robbie Hummel and Eachwan Moore and Jawan Johnson for us, because they really helped get it going for our program.
Yeah, it was neat to experience it with Robbie. He was part of our coverage, of course, and it was amazing to watch him walk around. I will never forget a T-shirt that someone had that said, "Win it for Robbie Hummel's ACL," right? I mean, but again, you think, to your point, of how close it was and how devastating that was at the time. I mean,
yeah, no
that
question.
was right, and so to get there. So that was the mantra last year, and you guys were here. The guys that were here were talking about that and about, hey, how do we bounce back from that? So Fletcher, I'll let you get the first word on this. But what's the mantra for this year when you accomplished, I know you didn't win the national championship, but I mean, you essentially accomplished the goals from last year. How do you set new goals, and what are you guys talking about in terms of what you're focused on this time?
Yeah, I think you pick up right where we left off. I think going into last season, we set out our goals. That was to win the Big Ten, win all of our games at home, win the national championship. And obviously you fall short of that, and you got room to improve, and you lose a guy that won the National Player of the Year back-to-back years. So you got to look, how can you improve and what can you do to get better. And I think by doing that, working harder this summer, just talking to the young guys, how hard it really is to get to where we got, and to be able to do it again, you just got to push them that much harder, especially in the offseason. What
do you have to do to get back there, Braden? What are the things that it would take for this team to be another Final Four team?
Yeah, similar to what Fletch just said. I think with me and him and TK and some of these other guys that came back, we had the experience and understand what it takes to get there. And I think with us being these leaders for these younger guys and these guys that haven't been in this position, we know what it takes. So we know like what to go through, how to handle it, how to approach each situation. I mean, me and Fletch have seen every situation possible, good and bad. So I think being able to have that under our belts, it's definitely going to help us.
We've gone a long time into this interview without actually talking about replacing Zach. So let's go there. He's the elephant in the room a little bit. We saw Trey Kaufman-Wren make amazing contributions last year. Those of us who were fortunate enough to watch you guys play would go to the pregame shoot-arounds and see Will Berg draining three-pointers like 10 in a row, right, and just kind of jaw on the floor. Daniel Jacobson comes in with a lot of hype, Raleigh Burgess. But give me a sense for that, the front court where you guys have been so good,
right?
And how I know you don't replace Zach. I know it's not,
right.
You know, it's apples and oranges maybe a little bit, but how do you fill that void and be good at that center spot?
Yeah, and the thing about these guys, like, they weren't here when Zach started, so they saw the end of it, which was obviously two-time National Player of the Year. So, like, these young guys that you mentioned, they got to start too, just like Zach started. Like, we didn't put that on Zach Edey right away. He earned that responsibility because of his production. I think for us, it starts with Trey Kaufman-Wren. You know, whether he's our 4 or he's our 5, he gives us that threat. And a guy that can score the basketball. He can score a lot better than he has shown. He just didn't get the opportunities because of Zach and how we ran offense through him. And then those other guys that you mentioned, like Raleigh Burgess and Daniel Jacobson and Will Berg, you know, Caleb First, like all those guys have had their moments. Like all those guys are there. They're going to be good when they're going to be good, like with young guys. You just don't know that yet. But they've all been really good in practice, and we're looking forward to it.
The focus, though, is going to be on the backcourt, at least initially, and that's you guys are the guys that people are going to talk about. So how is that different? How is it different to take the court? Maybe you won't know until you do it, but how's it different to take the court without Zach there as the center of attention?
Yeah, obviously a lot more attention's on us, but ultimately it's the roles you got to fill being the leaders. You got to fill the roles that the Mason Gillises and Ethan Morin had last year for us, talking to everybody, getting everybody motivated to go practice each and every night, knowing that we are a pretty dang good team. So just getting the young guys focused and getting everybody moving and making sure we're also doing our job by playing the hardest we can play.
Braden?
Yeah, I'd say just like what Fletch said, just be good leaders. I think that's the best thing that we can do, just because with our experience and with the situations we've been in, I think being able to just help them lead the way, I think that's just the biggest thing.
One of the things that it struck me in our conversations in the past couple of years, Matt, and I know you probably know the stat off the top of your head, but the number of times you guys have had the court rushed on you. Like
right.
Every single time you guys lose a game, it ends up in a court rush, which is a testament to just how good you have been. What is it like to go around with kind of that target on your back, the bullseye, the team that everyone wants to bring down?
Yeah, I think it makes us more prepared because I think we know every single night we're going to get everybody's best shot. So I think it makes us always on our heels and just looking forward for every single game and knowing that like we got to bring our best or else we're going to be beat. So I think that makes me more motivated and these other guys and coach motivated as well.
You know, for me to be able to coach a team, and we've won 35 straight non-conference games. So Caleb First is a senior. He's never lost a non-conference game. But the other thing is, in his road losses in conference, the only court storm he didn't see was Michigan State one time. Because we've lost some home games there. Not a lot of home games, but we've lost a couple home games.
Yeah.
So, like, think about that. Like, he's only lost one game on the road where it wasn't a court storm, and he's never lost a non-conference game. So we've had a lot of success there, and, you know, I think that keeps us on edge because we know that, like, hey, man, we got to keep this thing going. Like, we got to keep each game is so important, you know, especially non-conference, getting yourself ready for conference play.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. Those are amazing numbers. It's crazy to think about that and to think about all the success. And now the mantle is passed to you guys. Braden, I mentioned preseason conference player of the year. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
When you were choosing Purdue over Montana, App State, and Toledo, did you envision that you would be the preseason Big Ten player of the year?
Definitely not. I think a lot of the help was from Coach Paint, just giving the trust that he did to me and just giving me the confidence. I think without that, I don't think I would be here or even close to this. So,
yeah. How have you seen both these guys develop into big time players?
Well, the thing that you do right away is that, like, your competition. I always say, like, you know, organically, you guys are going to choose who plays. And Braden didn't play in the summer when he came in. He broke his foot twice his senior in high school, so he didn't have the summer. So then right as things starts, we do a lot of competitive drills, we do things, and both those guys just stood out. Their teams won more, they were more consistent, they were more production, so they earned it right away. So like to be able to play 2 years and have, 63 wins and 2 Big Ten titles, like that's all they've known. But they're talking about adversity. They don't realize that other people have had way more adversity than we've had, but we've really magnified our adversity. Like one loss is like it's misery. And like you don't want to have that feeling, and then not having it for 3 to 4 weeks is a hell of a deal. But if you have it 3 days later, that's hard. Like it's hard for these guys. But both of these guys have come in, and everything they've gotten, they've earned. And they do it. They practice hard. They play hard. They play unselfishly, and that leads to winning.
It's pretty amazing that you lose some of the talent you did off last year, most notably Zach, and yet you don't go into the portal at all. And I know you're not opposed to the portal. You brought in a really impactful portal player a year ago, but the fact that you have been able to kind of maintain your roster, what do you think that says about you and your program and the kids you're recruiting?
I would say the character of our players is they came to Purdue to get a degree. They came to get a Purdue degree, and that means something to some guys. There's been some guys basketball-wise that they feel like, man, I'm not quite getting the opportunity because, you can't get 13 people and they're all going to be happy. But I think it's just it's part of the process when you choose Purdue. Education's got to be a part of it. And now winning's got to be a part of it, and trying to win a championship's got to be a part of it. Now when you have that combination, you're going to do a better job of keeping your guys.
What would you say in terms of the culture of the program? Like what makes this a culture, aside from you win a lot of basketball games, what makes it a culture that guys want to be a part of?
Yeah, well, winning's huge, but also it's being around good guys, being able to show up to the locker room every day and not having to give a sour face to somebody. When you really respect the guys in the locker room, you respect the guys that are teaching you the game of basketball, how to win and how to be a good person in general, it goes a long way. And I think that when you're with good people and your boss is a good guy and you can go into work and not just be pissed all day, it's a pretty good day.
You've got a couple guys who have stuck around and now will get the opportunities this year, a number of them, but two I want to highlight in Miles Colvin and Cam Heide. We saw flashes from each one of those guys last season. Tell me a little bit about what you have each seen from them in the preseason. First, Braden.
I'm sorry. Just what they bring. I mean, they're able to knock down a shot, catch and shoot. They're both very athletic. They rebound well, and they're good defenders. So I think they bring a lot to the table, and they're obviously young. So having them come off the bench or starting wherever they're at the start of this year, they're going to bring it, and I'm excited for it.
Fletch, tell me about those guys and their development.
Yeah, like you hit on, they're both very athletic. They both want to play and they both want to win. I think that's the most important thing. And I think when you got guys that want to do that and they're looking to step into bigger roles, it's only going to help us out. It's only going to help the team out. So looking forward to it.
One of the games I'm really excited about on the schedule this year is when UCLA comes to Mackey in February, partly because it's just going to be a great game. I mean, I think you guys are going to be two of the better teams in the league. But the connection with Coach Wooden is such an obvious one. He's such an important part. I was out on UCLA's campus, and he's everywhere. You guys obviously have the statue to him on Purdue's campus as well as a great All-American player there. What does it mean to have those two schools that have always been linked by Coach Wooden now playing in the same conference?
Well, I think the thing that gets lost with Coach Wooden is he was a 3-time All-American at Purdue. A lot of people don't look at him as a player. They look at him as a coach, and rightfully so, because he was so successful as a coach. But that's the first game ever played in Mackey Arena was Purdue-UCLA with Lou Alcindor. And so they always say the best game ever played in Purdue, was the first game, even though UCLA won on a buzzer beater. And I've had 40,000 people tell me they're at that game. And
you do the math.
Yeah. The math kind of strikes. But no, it's just going to be really cool that we're going to be able to play UCLA. They're going to be in our conference, and we can kind of rekindle that connection.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really, really neat. And, I mean, you think about some of the games that we've got coming in the Big Ten with those new additions, and obviously with the 14 schools already here, and Purdue's going to be front and center in so many of the great ones. It was such a pleasure to follow you guys last year. Really, really enjoyed it. You gave us a ton of great memories at the Big Ten Network. Congratulations, and can't wait to see what the future holds for Purdue basketball.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. We're going to talk Iowa hoops next.